Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating strategic blueprint. It's for the Olufolu Guesthouse Island development in the Maldives.
Yes, and the documents you sent over detail a plan that, well, it really tries to flip the script on the traditional Maldivian tourism model.
Exactly, moving away from that classic one island, one resort setup.
We're looking at Olufolu Island. It's about 9.3 hectares, uninhabited, in Lamu Atoll.
Okay.
And the plan is to develop it as a cluster of 25 separate guest house plots.
25. And the really crucial part, seems to be the local equity piece that's built right in.
That's the core of it. 10 of those 25 lease plots are specifically reserved for business people who actually live on nearby Kunahandu Island.
So mandated community ownership, that's quite different.
It really is. And there's an entity, the Olufolu Management Cooperative, the OMC, that governs the whole thing to make sure it runs smoothly.
Right, the OMC. And this structure, it's possible because of a regulatory change, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It lines up with a March 2025 amendment to the Maldives Tourism Act.
Ah, okay.
Which allows these guest house clusters on uninhabited islands. And importantly, it lets them sort of sidestep the usual, very expensive tender process needed for big resorts.
Right, the one that requires huge upfront capital. Which brings us to this interesting financial paradox the sources lay out. If Olufolu went the traditional route, single resort lease, the government gets a guaranteed fixed rent, minimum estimate around $279,000 USD a year.
Correct. Guaranteed money right from year one. But with this distributed guest house model, the government is actually shifting its focus. They're aiming to maximize recurring tax revenue instead.
Okay, so giving up the fixed rent for potentially more through taxes.
That seems to be the gamble.
Yeah.
And the two main taxes are the TGST, the tourism tax, and crucially, the green tax.
And the green tax rate is key here because Olufolu is uninhabited.
Exactly. That triggers the premium rate. It's $12 per person per day.
Wow, double the rate you'd see on an inhabited island guest house.
Double. And when you project the potential occupancy across those 25 guest houses, the estimated annual revenue just from that green tax could hit around $730,800 USD.
$730,000. That's substantially more than the $279K fixed rent they'd forego.
Way more. It strongly suggests the long-term financial win for the government is actually in this high retention recurring tax model.
But isn't there a risk? Relying on projected tax revenue feels less certain than guaranteed rent. It depends heavily on keeping those guest houses full, right?
That's a fair point, but it ties into the idea of local resilience. Traditional resorts often have huge economic leakage.
Right. I've seen estimates like 55% to even 80% leakage.
Easily. Money flows out through imported goods, foreign labor remittances, management fees.
But with 25 locally owned businesses,
that capital is much more likely to stay put, to circulate within Kunahandu and Lamu Atoll, strengthening the local economy.
Okay, so less leakage. And that helps local suppliers too.
Absolutely. Think about local farmers. Suddenly they have stable, high-volume demand from 25 operators.
Instead of maybe one big resort dictating terms.
Exactly. And the OMC, that cooperative structure, is mandated to set up long-term agreements with local producer organizations like AMCS and Lamu. It mitigates market risk for them.
Got it. And for fishermen?
Similar benefit. They get a direct channel to sell high-value fresh fish to the guest houses, potentially bypassing middlemen and keeping more profit.
Okay, so strengthening local supply chains is a big part of it. What about the operational side? Can 25 small guest houses really match a resort's standards?
That's where the OMC comes in again. It's designed to achieve what they call resort parity.
How?
By managing essential infrastructure centrally and cost-effectively. We're talking the central solar PV plant, battery storage, a reverse osmosis desalination plant for water, clustered waste management, shared services, basically.
Economies of scale, even with distributed ownership. Makes sense.
Yeah, and beyond the economics, think about the social impact, particularly labor.
The sources mention the high reliance on foreign workers in traditional resorts, right? Like 70%.
Often, yes. It's a systemic issue. This guest house model inherently should favor much higher local employment ratios.
Because the owners are local.
Right. And those 10 reserved plots for Kunahandu residents, that's not just jobs, that's an entrepreneurial ladder.
So opportunities beyond basic service roles.
Definitely. It creates real pathways for local youth, for women, to move into higher value roles, F&B management, administration, maybe starting ancillary service businesses, selling traditional crafts. It's about moving from just being employees to being actual asset owners.
Okay, so summing this up for our listener, the Olutholu project seems to be a powerful case study. It suggests that by focusing on recurring tax revenue and ensuring distributed local ownership,
You build greater long-term economic and social resilience for the community. It makes the local economy, potentially much more robust against external shocks compared to the single operator resort model.
which leads to a pretty provocative final thought. If this model demonstrates potentially superior financial returns for the government through recurring taxes, and it builds local resilience,
Yeah.
should the development of any new tourism island in the Maldives, or maybe similar island nations, be exclusively structured like this, as community-centric guesthouse clusters completely bypassing the single-operator resort model?
That's the big question, isn't it? Something definitely worth considering as these places map out their sustainable futures.